A normal day at work was ruined when I got a call from my bank. I'd been approved a $50,000 transfer. My mother-in-law said, "It's all yours." I smiled and donated it to charity. She learned she was left with nothing and collapsed. So there I was, just another Tuesday morning at the bank where I work as a loan officer, sipping my Dunkin' coffee and scrolling through loan applications when my personal cell buzzes. The caller ID shows my bank's main number, which is weird because, I literally work here, but it's from a different department. "Ma'am, this is Jennifer from Wire Transfers. I'm calling to confirm a large incoming transfer to your personal account. The amount is $50,000 from a Margaret Thompson. Can you verify this is legitimate?" My heart basically stopped. Margaret Thompson is my mother-in-law, and 50 grand is more money than I've ever seen in one place. Can you hold on just a second?" I practically whispered, stepping away from my desk. For real though, my hands were shaking. Margaret has always been this larger-than-life personality. You know the type. She's got that old-school money attitude, drives a pristine Cadillac Escalade, and treats everyone like they're beneath her pay grade. She's never liked me, not since day one when her precious son brought home a simple bank employee instead of some country club princess. The backstory here is crucial, so bear with me. About 6 months ago, Margaret got diagnosed with some serious health issues. Nothing life-threatening, but expensive treatments that her insurance was being super difficult about covering. She'd been going on and on about how she needed to get her affairs in order and all this dramatic stuff about legacy and family responsibility. Now, my husband, let's call him Jake, he's Margaret's only child. His dad passed away years ago, so it's always been just the two of them against the world. Margaret's been dropping hints for months about how she wants to make sure Jake is taken care of if something happens to her. But every time she brings it up, she makes these passive-aggressive comments about how she hopes he chooses his family wisely. No cap. This woman has been testing me for 3 years straight. Remember when we got married and she insisted on wearing white to the wedding? Or when she accidentally booked a vacation during our anniversary weekend and expected Jake to join her? Classic power plays, but I've been playing the long game, staying respectful and keeping my mouth shut. So when Jennifer from Wired Transfers is asking me about this $50,000, my mind is racing. Why would Margaret send me money directly? This has got to be some kind of test or trap. There's no way she's just being generous out of nowhere. I get back on the phone. "Yes, I can verify the sender, but can you tell me if there are any conditions or notes attached to this transfer?" "Let me check. No conditions listed. It appears to be a standard personal transfer. Should I process it?" "Go ahead and process it, thanks." My hands are literally trembling as I hang up. I need to figure out what Margaret's game plan is before I do anything stupid. So I text Jake, "Hey babe, did your mom mention anything about sending money?" He texts back immediately. "What? No, why?" Before I can respond, my phone rings again. This time it's Margaret herself. "Hello, dear." Her voice has that fake sweetness that always makes my skin crawl. "I trust you received my little gift." "Margaret, I'm honestly confused. Why would you send me $50,000? She lets out this laugh that sounds like she's been practicing it. "Well, I've been thinking about what we discussed regarding my health situation. I realized that if something were to happen to me, Jake would inherit everything anyway. But I wanted to test something. Here we go. I knew there was a catch. You see, dear, I've always wondered about your true intentions with my son. Are you with him for love, or are you just another gold digger waiting for the right moment? This money, it's yours, no strings attached. You can do whatever you want with it. Consider it a wedding gift that's 3 years overdue." My blood is literally boiling, but I keep my voice steady. "That's very generous of you, Margaret." "Indeed it is, and I'm curious to see what you do with it. Will you spend it on yourself, save it, or perhaps, well, I suppose we'll see what kind of person you really are." The line goes quiet for a moment, and I can practically hear her smirking through the phone. "Margaret, can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "If this is really a gift with no strings attached, why does it feel like you're testing me?" Another one of those practiced laughs. "Oh, you're being paranoid. It's just money between family. Do whatever makes you happy." After she hangs up, I'm sitting there staring at my phone like it's going to give me answers. This woman has spent 3 years making my life difficult, questioning my motives, treating me like I'm some kind of fortune hunter, and now she's literally handing me a fortune to see what I'll do with it. Update. So Margaret just called and basically confirmed this is all one big test to see if I'm a gold digger. She's given me $50,000 with no strings attached, but clearly expects me to do something that proves her right about me. The crazy thing is, I think I know exactly how to handle this situation. What would you do if your mother-in-law tried to buy proof that you're using her son? Jake gets home that evening and I fill him in on everything. His face goes through about 12 different emotions: confusion, anger, embarrassment, and finally, this resigned look that tells me he's dealt with his mother's games before. "I'm so sorry," he says, sitting down heavily on our IKEA couch. "I should have seen this coming. She's been weird about money ever since Dad died, like she thinks everyone's after what she has." "Jake, be honest with me. Do you think there's any chance she's right? That I'm with you for the wrong reasons?" He looks at me like I've grown a second head. "Are you kidding? You've put up with her nonsense for 3 years. If you were after money, you would have bailed by now. Besides, you make your own money. You don't need hers." That's when it hits me. The perfect response to Margaret's little test. I spend the next 2 days researching local charities. Not just any charities, specifically organizations that help families dealing with medical expenses and insurance disputes. The irony is too perfect to ignore. On Thursday morning, I drive to the main branch of our bank, not the one where I work, because I want this to be completely separate from my professional life. I walk up to the wire transfer desk with a printed list of 5 different medical assistance charities. I'd like to make some donations, I tell the teller, sliding over the paperwork. $10,000 to the American Cancer Society, $10,000 to a local organization that helps families navigate insurance claims, $10,000 to a charity that provides transportation for elderly patients to medical appointments, $10,000 to a foundation that covers prescription costs for low-income families, and the final $10,000 to a scholarship fund for students studying healthcare administration. Every single donation is made in Margaret's name. The teller looks impressed. Wow, that's incredibly generous. Would you like receipt copies for tax purposes? Actually, could you send the receipts to this address? I write down Margaret's information. The donations are being made in her honor. Friday afternoon, my phone starts blowing up. First, Jake calls. Did you really donate all of Mom's money to charity? Yep, every penny. In her name? In her honor, actually. I thought she'd appreciate supporting causes related to medical care, given her recent health concerns. Jake is quiet for a long moment, then starts laughing. Not a mean laugh, but the kind of laugh you get when something is so perfectly executed that you can't help but admire it. She's going to lose her mind, he says. Probably. But what can she say? I didn't spend it on myself. I didn't save it for us. I used her money to help people who are dealing with exactly the kind of medical issues she's been worried about. If she complains about that, she's basically admitting the whole thing was a setup. 20 minutes later, Margaret calls. Her voice is completely different, higher-pitched, almost frantic. What did you do with the money? I donated it to charity. In your honor, actually. I thought you'd be proud. Silence. Then, you gave away $50,000? Well, it wasn't really my money, was it? You said it was a gift, but we both know it was a test. So I figured the best thing to do was use it for something meaningful. The charities were so grateful. Apparently not many people make donations that large. They're even going to send you thank you letters. More silence. I can practically hear her brain trying to process this. But that was... You could have what, Margaret? Bought myself a new car? Taken a vacation? Spent it on designer clothes? Would that have made you happy? Would that have proven whatever point you were trying to make? That money was supposed to be for you and Jake's future. No, it wasn't. That money was supposed to prove that I'm a greedy person who married your son for his potential inheritance. But here's the thing. I don't need your money. I never have. I married Jake because I love him, not because I love your bank account. Update. Well, I went nuclear and donated all $50K to medical charities in Margaret's name. She just called. Me absolutely furious. But here's where it gets interesting. She can't actually complain about charitable donations without looking like a complete monster. Jake thinks it's hilarious, but I'm wondering if I've just started World War III with my mother-in-law. Has anyone else ever turned their in-laws' manipulation tactics back on them like this? The thank you letters start arriving at Margaret's house the following week. Jake shows me pictures that she texts him. Professional letters on charity letterhead, thanking Mrs. Margaret Thompson for her generous donations and explaining how the money will be used to help families in need. According to Jake, she's been carrying the letters around, showing them to her friends at the country club. Apparently, she can't figure out how to complain about her daughter-in-law donating money to charity without admitting that she was trying to set me up in the first place. But the real kicker comes 2 weeks later. Margaret calls Jake and asks him to come over for dinner. When he gets there, she's got this whole spread laid out. His favorite pot roast, mashed potatoes, the works. Very unlike her usual approach to family dinners, which typically involves catered food from expensive restaurants. I owe your wife an apology, she tells him over dessert. Jake nearly chokes on his apple pie. Come again? I said I owe her an apology. What I did was wrong. I was testing her, and she passed in a way I didn't expect. Turns out Margaret's been getting calls from her friends about the charity donations. People who know her well enough to know she's not typically the charitable type have been asking questions. When she couldn't explain why she suddenly donated $50,000 to medical charities, she had to come clean about the whole situation. The response wasn't what she expected. Instead of her friends agreeing that I was probably a gold digger, they were impressed that I'd turned a manipulative situation into something positive. One of her closest friends, a woman who's known Margaret for 30 years, apparently told her straight up that she was lucky to have a daughter-in-law with such strong character. I realized something, Margaret tells Jake. I've been so afraid of losing you to the wrong person that I never stopped to consider that I might have been wrong about her from the beginning. Jake comes home that night with a weird expression on his face. Mom wants to take us both out to dinner. She wants to apologize to you in person. Are you serious? Dead serious. She also said she wants to reimburse the charities and give you the $50,000 back. I think about this for exactly 2 seconds. Tell her thank you, but no. The money went where it was supposed to go, but I'll accept the dinner invitation. The dinner happens the following Saturday at this fancy steakhouse that Margaret loves. She's dressed up in her usual style, designer, everything, enough jewelry to stock a small store, but there's something different about her demeanor, less performative, more genuine. I owe you an apology, she says as soon as we sit down. What I did was manipulative and unfair. I was so convinced that you were after Jake's future inheritance that I created a situation designed to prove it. Instead, you proved exactly the opposite. I take a sip of my water, choosing my words carefully. Margaret, I understand why you were protective of Jake. You raised him on your own, and you want what's best for him. but I need you to understand something. I fell in love with your son when he was driving a beat-up Honda Civic and splitting rent on a studio apartment with a roommate. I didn't even know you had money until we'd been dating for 6 months. She nods slowly. I realize that now. And I also realize that I've been difficult. Jake snorts. That's one word for it. Margaret shoots him a look, but there's affection in it instead of irritation. Your wife turned what should have been a gotcha moment into something beautiful. Those charities are going to help hundreds of families because of what she did. I can't even be mad about it. The conversation continues throughout dinner, and by the end of the night, something has fundamentally shifted. Margaret isn't suddenly my best friend, but the antagonistic energy is gone. She asks about my work, shows genuine interest in our plans for the future, and even admits that she's been lonely since her husband passed away. I think I was jealous, she says, as we're waiting for the valet to bring our cars around. Not of you specifically, but of the fact that Jake had someone else to prioritize. I've been the most important person in his life for so long that I forgot he was supposed to grow up and build his own family. Update, Margaret apologized. She admitted the whole thing was a test and said she was impressed by how I handled it. We had dinner together and she actually seemed genuine for once. She even wanted to give me the $50K back, but I told her the money went where it belonged. I think we might actually be able to have a real relationship now. Sometimes the best way to deal with manipulation is to turn it into something positive, you know? 6 months later, Margaret and I have developed what I'd call a cautious friendship. She still has her moments, old habits die hard, but she makes an effort to treat me as an equal rather than a threat. She's even started volunteering with one of the charities I donated to, which shocked everyone who knows her. Jake says his mom seems happier now, less defensive and controlling. The charity work has given her a sense of purpose that she hadn't had since his father died. Turns out that underneath all that testing and manipulation, she was just a lonely woman who was afraid of being forgotten. The $50,000, that was supposed to prove I was a gold digger, ended up proving something entirely different. That sometimes the best response to someone's worst assumptions is to show them who you really are through your actions, not your words. And honestly, I sleep better at night knowing that money is helping families deal with medical expenses rather than sitting in my bank account. Margaret's test backfired in the best possible way, and now we all get to live with the consequences of choosing kindness over conflict. Sometimes you've got to play the long game with difficult people. Sometimes you've got to let them dig their own holes and then offer them a ladder out. And sometimes, just sometimes, turning someone's manipulation into an opportunity for good is exactly the wake-up call they need. Margaret still drives her Cadillac and wears her designer clothes, but now she also spends Tuesday mornings helping elderly patients fill out insurance paperwork. Jake still gets annoyed with his mother sometimes, but he's proud of the relationship she and I have built. And me? I still work at the bank, still drink my Dunkin' coffee, and still deal with loan applications every day. But now I also have a mother-in-law who respects me, a husband who's amazed by how I handled an impossible situation, and the knowledge that $50,000 is making a real difference in people's lives. The best part is that Margaret can never take back what she learned about my character. She tested me expecting to find greed and selfishness, but instead discovered integrity and compassion. That's not the kind of lesson you forget, and it's not the kind of respect you can fake. Sometimes, life hands you a perfect opportunity to show people who you really are. I'm just glad I didn't waste mine.